Hey guys, welcome back. Continuing on. Okay, what I've done, I've got my doors setting up. They're all nice and dry, and they're setting up, and I've got setting up in the case. Now, one of the first things I'm gonna look for, and because we wedged them in and everything dried to fit the case, we should be okay. But you remember that drawer? That little rocky thing? You get the same thing in doors too. And I've got it laid up here and I'm checking all my points. I want to make sure that I'm setting in here flat. I don't want any twists. What could I do if I did? Now, if you recall, I told you I made my doors a little heavy. And I also told you the reason I do that is I have a drum sander. And I debated on whether to go through this, but I've decided that I'm just going to show it to you. If you have one, works really nice. If you don't, then you got to be a little bit more particular with your fitting and whatever. And that works fine. I did them for years without one. But with all my points on this door touching, same thing here. I know that I'm level. I'm flat. And I'm good here. Now well, wait a minute. I got just a little teeny bounce right there. Just a little bit. Now, that could be one of two things. On the edge of this shelf right here, I could be touching. I could have a little glue back here and be touching somewhere. Something to give me a rock. I can also check in here. I think I just found it. But if I hadn't, let me grab a chisel and get that out of there. Then what would I do? Just like that, I would do it exactly like that drawer. I would do a little hand planing. I got it, pretty much. Let me see. It's a little bit there. I've got a little bit of a ridge right here. Now, because I'm going to use the drum sander, what I'm after is getting one, and that's the reason that we wedged these in here. I want one side that's going to be perfect. I think that I got it. It's a little bit, but it's going to, because if I had a lot and I'm pull this corner in with a hinge, then what's going to do is it's going to make this corner pop out. Just like that drawer. It's the opposing corners. Make sure it's setting flat in there. If you need to hand plane the back of it, to get it setting in there flat. If your door winds up a little bit narrower, or thinner rather, than the face frame, it's okay. We can take care of that. That's not hard to deal with. But if we got twisted doors, then we got issues. That's one of the reasons that gluing these up, getting them in the case, wedging them in place, and then just let them set and dry good, the doors conform to the case. With that said, to trim our doors to length, our doors are square, but let's assume for a moment they're not. The bottom of this door is your index point, because this side is flat to the door, flat to the case, and the bottom of this is flat to the opening, the bottom. But that does not necessarily mean that this line is dead square. Supposed to be. but we all know about supposed to be and is. So I'm going to show you what I did. We got to get a camera angle real quick. Okay. Think about this a minute now. The bottom of this is true to the case. That means the top of it is going to be a mirror image of the bottom. Got that? When I move this up, I've got a dead line here and a dead straight line here. Now this is almost unsafe. Because what I did was I simply set with the bottom, I simply took it and I gently trimmed the top of this. If you've got a table sled that extends far enough to get your door in, that's the safest way. If you have a big miter slide that you can get it in, that's the safe way. This is a little bit unsafe, and here's why. This is why I wouldn't even attempt this if it was any narrower. When you go through here, if you twist the least little bit, you can pinch up on this blade. And if you've ever done that, then you pinch and it's going to throw it at you. So what's an alternative? Think about it. Remember when we did the shelves? Clamp you a piece of wood. Grab a bottom door. Clamp you a piece of wood. That's nice. That's clean. Just clamp you a piece of wood across this, down far as what you need it to trim off, and take that router bit and trim it. That flush trim, that spiral, that's safe. This is a little unsafe. All right, and I want to explain that to you because I see guys do that all the time. This is where, because of your extending out here so far, all right, without a slide in here, something to keep you tight against that fence, if you get in here and you get the least little twist, again, you can get a kickback and this thing can throw it back at you. So if you don't have a means of cross-cutting something as wide as the doors, use your router bit. Just as we did squaring up panels and everything else. Works just great. Okay. Where we're going to start now is we're going to go back here and I'm going to put these through the drum sander and clean them up. Then we're going to come back and we're going to route out, cut out the back here to receive the glass. Okay, guys. I'll get Crystal in a minute to kind of pan around a little bit. This is the back of my shop. All right, this is my drum sander. This is a big Performax 37. It's just a single drum, and I have a Jet 2244 that would do these. Now, I'm going to tell you up front, I've never used the ones that I've never taken the 2244 and tried to sand 44 inches by sanding one side and then the other. But the guys I've heard talk about it say it doesn't do real well. You want to stay with the width you've got. In other words, if you sander it wide enough, then you want to mill your material to the exact dimension. Now, with that said, all I'm going to say is this. Of any single tool that I've ever owned, a drum sander allows me to get my wood the flattest, straightest, and smoothest of anything I've ever had. And this is an example. Now, what we're going to do is we're just simply going to take these through, but I have an issue. I got to be very careful. If I come through straight, you see these edges right here? This drum, as it's spinning, it's going to bump them. So here's what I want to do. Number one, I want to go through and I want to skew it a little bit, meaning I want to go through on a little bit of an angle. Understand? And when I do that, now what that's going to do is that's going to mirror image the front of the door to match the back, which we know fits. So we're just going to do it and let you kind of tag along. If you've got a drum sander, the biggest thing you need to know is you're sanding. You're not planing. And no, you cannot do this with a planer. It's just not going to do it. But it sure cleans up a door nice. When you're doing it, people try to go way too hard and too fast. You're going to notice when I start this out, I'm moving pretty freely. I'm going to start this moving, and I'm going to bring this down to where I start touching, and I'm going to go very slow and very easy. I'm sanding. So here we go. Don't get much easier than that, does it? All right, while we're back here, I'll show you a little bit. This goes upstairs. We have an upstairs up there. This is my clamp rack. And I still don't have enough. What can I say? You know that. If you look around, here's a dresser and 2 tiger maple cases we're working on. That's just some wood stored. Most of it's upstairs. Over here you see the 20-inch planer. Behind it's a little dust collector. In the back over here is another bandsaw, and there's a shaper. That's a duplicator lathe. And as you spin around, this is a step back we're working on. In the back is just some sanders and some storage, and then there's my big old toolbox. I've told everybody, if anything ever catches on fire, that toolbox is the first thing gets out of here. And over in the corner is a big air compressor. I didn't say my toolbox is neat. I said it was a big one. Don't y'all look at my drill bits. I keep them real neatly organized. Nah, they don't need that. Well, I got more than a couple. I drill a lot. Okay, guys, routing out the back of this. Now here's what I've got. I've got a rabbiting bit with a bearing set up for 3/8. 3/8 from the bearing to the edge. Now what I've done is I've set this up to where when I run this, my bearing is indexing right off of this inside edge right here of the little bead. I got a place routed here so I can show you this. See where I'm indexing? Now, yes, you can do this in the router table. Probably easier, actually. But this is just another neat little... What I've done is I've got a block attached. Now, you want it up off the table so that your bearing, or off your bench, so that your bearing, because it's going to be down under, so your bearing doesn't interfere. And the other thing you want is that block to keep you from rocking and tilting. Now, all of you know, or I hope you do, what the term climb cutting means. Climb cutting basically means we're running in reverse. The reason it's called climb cutting is because the rotation of this bit, as we're coming, it's going to try to pull toward you. Not always the safest thing, but the thing it does is it will prevent you from getting a chip out in here or splitting out. But you got to be real careful with it. Now, I hope by now all of you know the alternative to that. Bump cut. That's exactly right. Let me show you. By bump cutting it, we're able to get a nice line. Because if you run straight down, what can happen, the rotation of this bit, like I said, it can come in here and it can try to chip that out because the force of the cutter is pushing this wood out. That's why we want to climb cut it, but bump cut it. Bump cutting removes the meat and keeps you from being able to get that catch. I'm going to run a little more. Now, like I said, doing this on a router table would be a good idea. And we keep going. Now, you see how narrow your piece is here? And remember me telling you, make sure you talk to your glass cutter to see if he can cut this into your glass. We're fortunate we can. Now, everybody out there is going to think I'm going to chisel all them corners square. Nope. I get my glass cutter, sand them corners around, and when we glaze this in, I come right around it. But let me finish up a corner real quick. Let me so you can see this. I like it. My clients like it. Now, once this is done and we glaze it, kind of puts this neat little corner in here, and it looks pretty cool. And so I'll leave mine around. And that, like I said, the cool thing is when you come in and glaze it, you can just sweep right on around it and go up. I can always tell a door I made because it's always got that. Okay, I'm going to route them out. We're going to come back and look at how we do those raised panels, because we're going to put them to the sander, but then we got to do them just a little different. All right. The director says we need to show it on the router table. Here it is. I agree. With this bit rotating this way, I want to be running, if I run from right to left, I'm going to be climb cutting. So the typical would be for me to be going from left to right. I mean, I think I said that wrong. Yeah. I want to be running it from my right to my left. Yeah. Yeah. Took me a minute. Left to right if it's handheld, right to left if it's in the table. Here we go. We got to be careful because this thing can splinter out. So again, back to the bump cut thing. See what the bump cutting is going to do is it's going to take out the majority of the meat so you can climb cut it, and you're not going to have it just grabbing this door and pulling it at you. Bump cutting and climb cutting. Best way to remove these from the back of the door. All right, guys, I got a little bit of an issue. See right here, I'm about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm touching right there. Now, if I was using my router, I don't know why that is. Let me see something here, Matt. See, when I'm fitting all the way around, but I'm touching here and I'm off here. Again, about 1/8. So I need to fix that. I can't tell you what's wrong. I could be off here a little bit, just not sure. But I don't care. So here I go to the table saw. I'm going to do exactly what I told you not to do. All right, guys, cheat time. I got me a little shim back corner. This was my tight corner. I haven't moved this. Now I'm going to tell y'all again, be careful with this, okay? don't get in a twist. The bottom door isn't near as bad as the top door because it's not as long. Yeah, I would much prefer this to be square. But guess what? It's more important that it fit. That little bit nobody's going to notice, and don't y'all tell them. See what I got now. I'm on the money. What I did was the little thickness of the shim was comparable to what my gap was here. Now see, I was all the way touching. If I wasn't touching, then I would want a little lesser shim. That works. That door is now lined up. Let me check my bottom one. All right. Now, on this door, I'm not touching here. See what I've got? So, what I'm going to do, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get me a straight bottom to index from. And this is the bottom that's touching. Ooh, I want to tone that down. And I want to go the other way. If you're hand planing something like this, never go off the edge. You can chip that edge real good. All right, I'm just about there. I got just a little bit on this corner. Wasn't much. Could I take and tape a little teeny shim on there? Sure could. Could I also hand plane the side and make it all fit? Yep. That's pretty good. I'm going to make a real light. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a very light pass. I'm plenty tall, so I'm going to make a light pass where it's setting. Now that top is doing the exact same thing the other one was, except at this point, this top, because we indexed off the bottom, is a mirror image. So I want to clean this up just a little more. I'm going to move in just about a 30 second or so, just enough to skim it to clean it. All right, that looks good. This is close. It's a little bit closer here, and I mean a little bit. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Yep, so this corner got to come off. Yep. So I'm just going to use 2 or 3 wraps of masking tape here. That sneak up on the thing, guys. I'm going to put my raised panel doors through the drum sander. Now here's what I got to do. The exact same thing applies we did on the top. Everything is, if I have something, well, it was sitting right. All right, I'm pushing right here. See it popping here? But I feel it rocking. I think it's in that middle shelf a little bit. I think it's right there a little bit.